Hi, it's Stephen here from Sound of an Ocean Wave, and this is day 23 of the February Daily Draws. As we start a new week, let's see what message we get. And I'll be taking the first card from the Gilded Tarot Royale, followed by an Oracle card from the Seasons of the Witch Imbolc Oracle. So let's choose our first card and get the reading underway. Okay, here we go. The Knight of Swords. So, yesterday we had the Eight of Wands, which is about the increase in momentum and motivation, and energy burst, and energy boost, and launching ourselves and really picking up the pace. And in so doing, here we have Knight of Swords, who's very much of that sense of purpose, going toward, with knowing his plans, knowing the object, the goal. He knows where he's reaching for. He knows the quest on which he's going and what amounts to be success. And he's ready. He's gearing up. He's ready. He's dressed in the armor. He's got his sword ready and outstretched. The horse is rearing to go, although he's on the edge of a cliff there. But he's looking at where he can go next. So he's planning his move, his strategy, and he's getting an overview as the eagle flies, the eagle eye view of the terrain, and then he will having taken an overview, will formulate his plan and his strategy, and he will put it into action. And that's what we're going to be doing perhaps through this week. We're going to be formulating plans and putting them into action. So even the formulating the plans, the forming of the plans, the working out of the strategy, that in itself is action, because we're doing something. We're actually creating the plans for a purpose. And that's what it is. That's going to get us towards our goal, achieve what we want to achieve. And we're gearing up for it. We're ready. We're going to get ourselves ready. We're going to get into that preparedness and then begin to take action. That is very much the energy of the Knight of Swords as we start this week. We're preparing to take action, and we are going to begin to take action. That is what the Knight of Swords is doing here. And that's what we are going to be doing as we start this week. So this is a time of preparation, planning, and executing those plans. That's it. That's the it's plan, prepare, and execute the plans. There's probably a third word with beginning with P that I can't think of to make it all the P's, but you get the idea. So I should probably think of it when I finish recording, of course. But that's not really the important thing. The important thing is that we're ready and that we're going to start to take action. We're going to put things into motion to harness some of that momentum and energy that we had from the Eight of Wands yesterday. So, that energy comes with a purpose, and we're going to take it and use it with purpose. That's what the Knight of Swords is doing. That's what we're going to be doing. But sometimes it's good before we start to get a good vantage point, to have the layout of what's ahead, what we need to do, and the steps we may need to take. And he can get a good view here instead of just going straight forward, because sometimes the Knight of Swords can get a little bit reckless, a little bit impetuous, a little bit too keen to get into the fray, and he moves too quickly and too impatiently. I don't think that's the case here with this knight, but the Knight of Swords can have that aspect if it's not watched, and we can do that sometimes. We feel the momentum, we feel the energy, and we want to go. We want to get it done. We want to rush forward, but we can't be ruled by impatience. We still got to keep that clear head. We're still got to be wise about we know we've got to take action, but we've got to be considered and wise and discerning in the action that we take. And part of that is to make sure we're prepared, that if he was to get on the horse without his armor, then he's going to be vulnerable to attack. He's going to be vulnerable, if he gets into difficulty. He's got no protection. If he hadn't got his sword, how can he defend and how can he prosecute his thing? If all the different things here could, he's got to be ready in himself, all the practical considerations, and also in his mind, he's got to be ready. And of course, he has to have an understanding of what it is he wants, he wants to achieve, and the terrain in which he's trying to achieve it. And we don't live in a vacuum. We live in the world around us. We live in a situation not just of our own making. When we take the actions, we take actions in the world in which we live. So we need to take that terrain into account. So we need to plan how to navigate that in order for our plans to be successful. So there's all kinds of things where taking action has to be considered action and prepared for action. But once we've done it, we have to do the doing. We have to act. We have to actually do the work. We actually have to put the steps in place. We have to walk the steps once they're in place. And we have to, live out the strategy that we've got and be willing to adjust it if anything changes along the way. Not to be too rigid in our plans that we can't adapt, because a good knight always adapts to the situation he finds himself in. So even with the best planning, there's also that element of being able to adjust and adapt to circumstances that we may not have anticipated or that come out unexpectedly. So that's what this card is saying to us. Be prepared. Get your plan in, know what you're dealing with, know the terrain in which you're doing it, and plan accordingly, and then put those plans into action and use that energy that you have, that boost of energy that we had from the 8 of Wands yesterday, and start beginning to work towards the achievement of our goals. And we'll see where it gets us by the end of the week, how far we've progressed. And we should have progressed some way. So let's put all these concepts into action. Let's do them. Let's prepare. Let's plan. And I still can't think of a word beginning with P. Put the plan into action. That's what I can say. That's kind of a cheating way of putting the P in there. Okay, so let's see which oracle card we get to go with that. We have the Milkman Witch. Again, we had this before, didn't we? We had this before. We had this with the Four of Pentacles. This is... We see these ships on the tide. We see the moon here coming out, the light of the moon almost coming down, the milky moon. And it says here that when the tides, watch as the tides turn in your favor. So we're talking about prepare, and when we feel the tide moving, which I believe was signified by the 8 of Wands, that boost of energy comes from the tide turning. Maybe we've had to conserve our energy. We had this one with the Four of Pentacles. We needed to sort of conserve our reserves, as it were, under the present circumstances. But as we felt the tide sort of changing, then we can use that boost of energy that we've got to our good. watch as the tides turn in your favor, weaving the waters within. So it can stir our motivation, stir our passions, once the energy comes in there, and maybe the tidal will become a bit calmer, or that we will feel more able, more balanced to be able to navigate whatever terrain we're doing it on. And the tide's going to turn in our favor. So let's seize the day, seize the opportunity, prepare, plan, and put those plans into action. And that is the message of the cards today. Okay, so that's today's message. I'll be back tomorrow with day 24. Until then, thank you for listening. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all again very soon. Okay, bye-bye.